All right, and it looks like we are live. Let me double check on that. All right, yeah, we are live. So hello and welcome everyone. My name is Luke Stokes. I'm the Managing Director for the Foundation for Interwallet Operability. I'm joined today by Illya. Do you want to give your full introduction and your position and everything?
Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in. My name is Illya Swan, work as a Director of Product Design at CoinPayments. I've helped FIO integrate with CoinPayments on a few different, some of the different features that FIO is offering, and it's a pleasure to be here.
I'm really glad to have you, and we're very excited about the CoinPayments integration. So we've got a lot of different things to talk about as far as the cryptocurrency space, where we are today, kind of where we see it going, how it relates to e-commerce and all the things. I should probably start with a little bit of my backstory in that back in, I guess it'd be 2007 now, I had an e-commerce platform that I started called FoxyCart, and we was very interested in the whole payment space. And in 2013, we started integrating FoxyCart into BitPay, and then later CoinPayments as well, or not CoinPayments. I'm sorry, what's the
Gate.
The big one in the U.S. I'm drawing a blank at the moment. Not CoinDesk, but
Coinbase.
Coinbase, thank you. Coinbase payments, Coinbase Commerce. So we integrated into that. And it was funny because in 2013, it was just too early. Like nobody cared, you know, it's this whole confusing process of these long, big addresses that people were kind of unsure of how to use. And the whole thing was just kind of confusing for people. And so fast forward now, here we are in 2021, and it's a whole different space. And interestingly enough, before I sold that business back to my business partner so I could focus full time on consulting and advising in the crypto space in 2018, I was actually working on a CoinPayments integration. And so it was kind of, here we are full circle now that I'm working with FIO, and we have a full integration with CoinPayments. So one of the questions I'm curious about is just, what is your, with your experience at CoinPayments, what is your perception of where the industry is as far as the original kind of white paper promise of, peer-to-peer digital cash? This is something you can do micro payments on, and this is what I got excited about. And I wonder, like, are we there? Are people using e-commerce at all within cryptocurrency?
Yeah, we can see growth year over year, quite steadily. And I think now that people like your company, FIO, like different cryptocurrency that come out, they try to tackle, instead of just a general payment solution, they try to tackle specific aspects that are really troublesome and inconvenient or difficult or unclear to people, like having the domains to send money to, or having faster payments with some cryptocurrencies, or having more privacy. We've had that over the last few years where projects come up to tackle specific problems. And I think, that's kind of the future, where there's specialization always brings, better products, in my opinion. And when someone focuses on solving a particular problem, they really do it well.
I love that. I think you're exactly right. It's interesting how when we even talk about the internet, there's so many layers of technology that enable us to even have this conversation we're having now. You've got TCP/IP, you've got IP, you've got DNS, you've got HTTP, you've got all these different layers, the compression algorithms, the streaming protocols, all these type of things. And so I do think that when we talk about the cryptocurrency space, it's kind of early days, very early days. And the ability to kind of like layer those technologies and actually get that usability and the user experience in there, I think is really important. I do think that's kind of been holding back the ecosystem. Also, too, the high fees that we experience on a lot of these chains, the lack of throughput as more and more people are using them. That's where I think the Lightning Network and Layer 2 solutions, a lot of these things are really important. Interestingly enough, some of the wallets that we work with FIO, they would look at some of the user experiences of some of these, for example, Lightning, and decide if they're not quite ready yet, like opening a channel, closing a channel, and managing your state of your different channels, and making sure you have enough, funds on the different channels you have open. And one of the things that we're interested in is the FIO request functionality, being able to potentially kind of open and close channels or things of that nature using FIO requests. And I know the CoinPayments integration as well, thinking about the FIO requests as kind of the common way most people in traditional finance do things. You don't just have money show up in your bank account randomly. There's always an invoice, there's an order card, there's a request for payment that I think is really important. So yeah, I actually don't have the questions that we had talked about up in front because I realized I have to show my screen or else what we're recording is coming off my actual screen share. So I'm going to have to rely on you to cover the different questions we talked about.
Of course. Well, since you started talking about FIO and FIO requests, I think in my experience, one of the biggest, it's not even the problem where, you send the money to incorrect address and I've lost money personally. I'm not saying that, but there's always this anxiety of sending large amounts of money to a large string of symbols. What if you did have malware on your computer that replaced some characters? What if you copied the wrong address? What if it's a different blockchain? Like, as you know, there's tokens now on at least 4 or 5 different blockchains, like BNB, BEP20, there's ERC20, there's TRC20, all of these, and you might mix them up pretty easily, So all of this anxiety, I think, is alleviated by FIO, right? In regard where you send a request and you just get a specific amount to be sent to, and then you know that if you just requested it, or if someone else has requested it and you're expecting it, you can just verify that the amount is correct, that the fees are set accurately. Well, actually, that's done automatically as well. So, yeah, definitely alleviates that stress.
I completely agree. And it's one of those things that I feel like is really, really important because, as you said, you can send Bitcoin Cash to a Bitcoin address. You can send USDT on OmniLayer or, Tron to, Binance Smart Chain or Ethereum. And, it doesn't work. You have exchanges that have a ton of problems with having to do recoveries. We have to go into someone's account and actually figure out a way to kind of extract the value that wasn't really part of their account because it was sent to the wrong chain or the wrong network. And so I do think that we're still very early days with this. I talk often about the law of diffusion of innovation and how these different network adopted technologies like the internet, the smartphone, they kind of follow this exponential growth. And when it continues, as it has been in the case of Bitcoin adoption for the last 10 years, in this exponential doublings of adoption, you get to a point where once you hit that 1%, you're only a couple, like 3 doublings away. You get to 2%, then 4%, and when you're at 8%, you're at that tipping point where it's almost for certain that you're going to reach 100% mass adoption as long as nothing, major catastrophe happens in the space. So I feel like we're right there. Last I saw, we're about 3.9% of the world is in crypto. And so there's this kind of like just on the point of incredible growth where it's going to surprise people. I think we're about 3 to 5 years out from 1 billion users. And a lot of people think, well, how is that possible? Most people in the world don't even know what crypto is because most people are not used to exponential growth. And I think a huge part of that is when you have 1 billion users with cryptocurrency, they want to use it, right? They want to use it for something. It's not just sitting there as a store of value. I think it has many other use cases. And that's where I think CoinPayments is so perfectly aligned to be able to bridge that gap from the old systems to the new systems and helping people have that familiar checkout experience, but also be able to pay with whatever token they want. One of the things I really like about CoinPayments is you guys have always supported a lot of interesting tokens. And there's a great talk by Andreas Antonopoulos talking about currency as language, the idea that we'll express ourselves with Dogecoin or a meme coin or Bitcoin or Ethereum as a form of language, as a form of expression. And I think you guys enable that with your ability to accept a lot of cryptocurrencies, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, our mission is to make payments as cryptocurrency payments as smooth as possible to as many people as possible across as many borders as possible. Cryptocurrency does enable that. There doesn't have to be one central authority, saying that you can do this and you can't. We're still, following the regulations and all of the compliance rules just to make sure that this is a long-term game and everybody has the opportunity to participate in it. But yeah, and one of the things you mentioned as well is that as more people, I actually didn't know that only 3.4% you said in the world own crypto. So in the States, it's a little higher. I think it's around 11 or 14%.
Mm-hmm.
But even with that, do you think how many more people, like there is actual utility to cryptocurrencies already, and as more people accept it, more merchants will be interested in accepting it. So it's going to be easier to spend the money. Plus, as more people want crypto and there's a limited supply of, the top cryptos, the value is probably going to go even higher. And that means that someone who made their wealth or part of their wealth in crypto will want to just spend crypto instead of settling it to some fiat and stuff. So I do think that the e-commerce potential for crypto is only going to grow year over year. It's not going to stagnate and in some paper wallet on someone's shelf.
I totally agree, and I think I was a little too early in 2013. But I don't think we're too early now. I think the companies
no
now
experience is wasted.
Yeah, and also too, I think the companies that are positioning themselves to think about their usability strategy, their cryptocurrency strategy, their NFT strategy, their DeFi strategy, all these kind of blockchain enabled activities, it may take their team a year or two to kind of ramp up technologically and understand everything that goes involved in that. But now's the time to start, because if you miss that wave of a billion users coming into this space, and you're not working with companies like CoinPayments and FIO Protocol that think about usability, I think a lot of people in this space today, they're too focused on engineers building tools for other engineers. It's too confusing, too frustrating, it's too stressful, like you said, especially with a large amount of money. You don't know that it's actually going to the right person or the right business. And I think that those companies that really focus on making it a joyful experience are going to be the ones that customers flock to. So I think it's a really great time to be in the e-commerce place, as you said. And I'm excited because, again, it's one of those full circle things where I spent 10 years doing e-commerce, and now it's like, well, finally we get to see this working in my passion with cryptocurrency.
You persuaded. Till the right time. Actually, if you don't mind, I'll mention some other things, the findings that I found interesting on FIO specifically with CoinPayments, is that some of the, as you might know, some of the most common problems with payments in crypto are they fail usually due to three reasons, right? It's either underpayment. So there's a specific invoice amount, someone sends just not enough, either because the transaction fees weren't accounted for, because of a user mistake. Can be many different reasons. It can be overpayment, which means you sent a little too much. So now the merchant, either, I guess, depending on the system, we send a refund to the buyer when they sent too much, right?
And sometimes the refund might, the fees on the refund might be more than the refund, right?
Yeah,
so you get all this drama.
Worth it, yeah. And the third one is when the payment times out. So you're given a specific amount of time because the rate has to be fixed for that amount of time, and if the transaction confirms past that timer, then it's a failed transaction. You have to claim your refund. So FIO requests actually solve 2 out of 3 of those problems. And my hypothesis when I started to look into this, preparing for our talk today, was that FIO actually, because it solves 2 out of 3 problems, it should potentially increase the completion rates for payments, right? And even though I don't have the numbers that would make it statistically valid by all the rules, because the FIO is still a fairly new feature on our platform, and there's not thousands of transactions per month being processed yet. But even with the numbers we have now, there is a 14% increase in payments completion compared to traditional addresses.
That's fantastic. That's really exciting. Yeah, you extrapolate that out to millions and millions of transactions. That becomes very significant.
And think of all the transactions. So that completion, that doesn't even account for overpayments, right? Where users send too much money, then now they have to deal with the refund. So that issue is completely out. Completion rates are higher. So it compares a 44 completion rate with FIO versus 30% with standard addresses, where people open it, maybe they get confused, maybe they, didn't send enough, sent the wrong address, whatever. So yeah, there's huge potential for it. And another thing that FIO can introduce as well that I'm quite excited by is easier subscription models for crypto.
Yes.
So since have you probably considered that as
well?
Oh
yeah, no, we actually we had a project that one of our community members started working on called FIO Pay. We never actually got it implemented, but it was basically as simple as a cron job that would spit out and process FIO requests.
Right.
And that's a very simple process because as you know, everything in the crypto space prior to the FIO request concept existing is kind of, push only. It's just the customer pushing funds to you. You can't pull funds from a customer, which is the standard subscription model that we see in most software as a service companies and any type of online service offering. So I'm really glad and excited that you guys see the potential for that as well, because it also gives, what I like about that too, it gives the end user the full control of the experience. Meaning I get that request in my wallet and I go, oh yeah, I still really like that service. I want to keep paying for it. And you swipe your finger and you're done. And whereas
as it's a push notification, right?
yeah. And I think sometimes we have these subscription models where it's like, people don't even check their credit card statement. They're like, wait, I've been paying for something for 2 years that I never even use? What is that about,
I just forgot about my Uber Eats subscription yesterday. Got it renewed without any thought behind it.
And these things happen, right? And it's like, and some people argue, well, that's in the merchant's benefit. Why would you want to change that? And I would say, no, if you're really actually providing great value, you don't want to create frustration with your customers who are going to tell their friends, oh, I hate that service because they stole money from me from a year and I never even used it, and they never bothered to tell me, hey, you're not using the service. I like the idea that you're engaged with your customer, you're engaged with whatever vendor or merchant you're getting a service from, and you can decide, yeah, I still like that service. And if you don't, then you don't have to make the payment and everything's fine. So I really like that. I'm glad you guys are viewing that as well as a big potential for FIO.
Yeah, I really hope you develop, more and more in that direction, because I don't think there are any widespread, alternatives to that. Subscription model in crypto is very like the closest we can get now is sending a link, on the automated monthly email, saying like, hey, here's your invoice, please pay it. Like that's pretty much the closest we can get. Or definitely. Alternatively, have a credit account on the platform and saying like, okay, you put extra money here and we'll take out every month. Like that's pretty much the only two alternatives right now.
Yeah. And then you have to have like shared keys and different things like that. And then if the money's not really, yours, now it's in a custodial account, and there's a lot of drama with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So looking forward to the bright future of, crypto subscriptions. Other than that, there's someone asked which currencies FIO supports. I can list the ones that I saw on Koinami wallet that I was using, but if you would like to add any more?
Actually, let me make a comment about that. And thank you again. Shout out to our Twitter followers. A lot of great questions that were asked. Our team kind of went through those and kind of filtered them down just to the CoinPayments specific ones. But I really just want to give a shout out to everyone who's been submitting those questions over the past week. Really appreciate that. And the interesting question comes up often. Does FIO support this token? Does FIO support that chain or that token? And the nice thing about the answer is yes. FIO supports every single token and every single chain that will ever exist or does exist, with a caveat. You just need a wallet or an exchange that has that built in and is FIO enabled. And the reason that is the foundation or the block producers, the different FIO ecosystem, it's completely open permissionless protocol. We don't have some type of vetting process. It's actually when you send a FIO request or you map a native public blockchain address to your crypto handle like Luke Stokes, like I have, we don't have any limitations to that. It's almost essentially clear text. You can just set whatever you want, whatever chain, whatever token. Now, I'd love for you to continue, listing out, for example, whether it's Infinito or Edge Wallet or Trust Wallet, like these different wallets that have various levels of the FIO protocol integrated. When you're looking for that FIO experience, it's really just about looking for a wallet that's FIO enabled. So what are some of the example tokens that are supported in the wallet you used?
So the Koinami wallet supports, I guess they are limited by the currencies that are actually supported on the wallet itself, but there's a large number of coins. There's LTC, so Litecoin, XMR, XEM, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin, Ethereum, DAI, BNB, USDT, EOS, Dash, Blackcoin, XRP, BNB, and FIO.
Yeah, and that's how it works, in that whatever token that wallet or exchange or payment processor, whatever token that you, for example, at CoinPayments supports, we will immediately have that support now, because again, FIO is open and works with every chain and every token. It's just a matter of finding the right wallets, and as more and more wallets use this, there's more and more adoption. Again, back to that network effect, there becomes more value within the whole ecosystem. And now people can start to train their friends and family on sending and receiving cryptocurrency using a joyful experience, and that FIO crypto handle. And if somebody's like, well, I want to use it with Doge, it's like, well, okay, as long as you have a wallet that supports Doge that's FIO enabled, then you'll never have to see a public address. You can just use these FIO crypto handles instead.
Yeah, that's a smart integration. Lots of flexibility. Sorry, a quick question for you. So this is being streamed on your FIO YouTube channel?
Yes.
I had some people reach out to me saying they can't see the stream. Just everything correct?
Oh, let's double check that. It says that we're 19 minutes in.
And I'm just on the YouTube FIO Protocol page. And,
Okay.
there is no notification that there's a live session happening.
All right. I was kind of relying on my team to make sure that got taken care of. But let me double check that we're going, and we'll just do a little.
Sorry for interrupting.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm going to go ahead and double check here. I do see that. Yeah, I'm not seeing where that would show up. I think it would normally show up under home, but I'm not seeing it come through. Let me double check real quick with my team and make sure that. Hold on, I'm going to have to. I think it's funny because you actually see the same screen I'm seeing the way this is done. The way I'm actually streaming off of what I'm seeing, so I'm gonna have to ping on YouTube real quick. It is interesting because it is actually saying that it's coming through.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just not advertised or something on the actual page.
So it's the FIO live stream. Oh, it says private. That's a problem. Let's fix that. That might be it.
All right.
That definitely was the problem.
I'm glad they pointed out.
I'm really glad you did, actually. So it is public now. Yep.
Okay, so this was a dry run?
No, I think the video that we record, everything that we recorded will still be there. But unfortunately, no one was able to see it live stream. So I think that was the testing that we were doing earlier today. Unfortunately, we set it to private just to test it. And now it's actually on there. So thank you for whoever brought that up. Super appreciate that. This is our first live stream we've done in a very long time. So we're going to get better at it.
No worries.
I'm just going to let the team know.
We finished at the question of cryptocurrencies, and then there was also, I guess, a question of is there a fee involved? As far as I know, you just charge the network fee, right, to send the transaction. Is there any additional fees that FIO charges?
No, actually, and so it's an interesting thing when we talk about fees and how FIO works with other kind of fees, because it's a lot of people, and it's really kind of confusing at first. And I think this is kind of the number one thing that when we're talking to integration partners and we're explaining how FIO works, they get a little tripped up on. They're like, how do I send to Luke at Stokes? That doesn't make sense. So does like the Bitcoin go to some system and then it gets sent to some other system? And then do you get involved in that process? And just explaining that when I map a Bitcoin address, for example, to Luke at Stokes, I do that with my private key. I'm the only one that can set up that mapping. And the wallet basically says, hey, I'd like to send Bitcoin. I need a Bitcoin address. And so it looks at the FIO chain, pulls a Bitcoin address from Luke at Stokes from the FIO blockchain, which is, again, cryptographically provably secure. I'm the only one that can actually set up that mapping. They get the Bitcoin address there in their wallet and they send a normal Bitcoin transaction. So as far as the wallet is concerned and the chain is concerned, the FIO wasn't even involved in that native transaction. It was just a Bitcoin transaction from one Bitcoin address to another. But the user experience is much improved in that you have that, that great experience where you never had to worry about what the native public blockchain address was. So as far as that goes, you have the normal fees, the normal kind of delays of whatever native transaction on a given blockchain you're going to do. And as far as that lookup, there's no fees at all to do that lookup. There are only fees when you want to map an address or create a FIO request or accept a request or reject a request. But then or if you want to register a FIO address or a FIO domain. But the nice thing about that, even those fees are basically prepaid. So when you register a FIO address, you get what we call bundled transactions. You get 100 interactions with the blockchain that are essentially prepaid. And some interactions take 2 bundles, some take 1 bundle. And that way you can just be experiencing that FIO with FIO requests and mapping addresses and all these different interactions without ever having to pay anything, because you've kind of already prepaid when you purchase that FIO address. And as many of our users know, in the Edge wallet and Shapeshift wallet, many of the wallets we partner with, you can get free FIO addresses, and there's allocated tokens as from the mainnet launch last year set aside to give away those FIO addresses. So even those free address, even those bundled transactions you normally have to pay for about $2 a year, those are actually being taken care of. And also we just made an adjustment just recently where FIO addresses never expire. So you actually, once you have it forever.
Yeah, mine was like up until for 100 years or something.
Yeah, it's been set now so that they never expire. And the more you use them, at some point, if you use up all those bundled transactions, your wallet may prompt you and say, hey, you ran out of bundled transactions. It's another $2 to get another set of bundled transactions. But I think that's an ideal model, because the kind of casual users who maybe use it once or twice every month or two, or maybe they only use it every couple of years, they're not going to experience any type of loss aversion at all. Right. And those who are really using it and getting a lot of value out of it, they're going to see, oh man, this makes my whole experience so great. I don't mind throwing a couple bucks at it once in a while, no problem.
Yeah, I see. And those transactions will be funded with FIO coin?
Yes, the FIO coin is, it's a utility token. In order to purchase a FIO address or purchase a FIO domain, you do actually pay the blockchain itself. So there's not like a company in the middle that are taking those fees. And those fees get split out according to the validators, the block producers who secure the network. A small percentage, 15%, goes to the nonprofit Cayman Foundation to continue developing the protocol and paying worker proposals and integration bounties. Mm-hmm. And then a portion of that as well goes to the wallet integrator. We call the TPID, the Technology Provider ID. So if you're a wallet or a product or service that integrates FIO Protocol and people are purchasing addresses or domains through your interface, then you're getting a kickback on those fees as well, including an additional bonus that the chain itself mints of new tokens for that integrator. And then with the, I forget exactly which FIP it is, but we do have staking rewards coming out so that those who are voting for block producers and helping to secure the network with their vote are actually going to get a portion of those fees as well as part of a staking reward. So a lot of interesting ways that this is a decentralized business model supporting everyone who's participating.
That is interesting. It's cool that blockchain enables us to come up with those new models, automatically.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One other question was, we slightly touched upon this, but the question was, what protections are offered to users who pay with CoinPayments plus FIO? And is there a risk of loss of funds due to failed transactions? I don't know if you would like to start, but I also have some notes.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there are some fundamental challenges with certain layer one blockchains. For example, Ethereum. Anyone who's played around with DeFi long enough will eventually pay that $150 transaction that runs out of gas and fails. Those kind of things are super frustrating. And unfortunately, FIO is only as good as far as the user experience as the layer one that you're using with FIO. That said, the things we talked about earlier, like you were definitely mitigating an incorrect transaction where you're sending the wrong token to the wrong address to the wrong person with the wrong amount. That can be mitigated very well with the FIO request experience. But as far as a failed transaction where the fees weren't high enough on the native chain, or gets stuck in the mempool for a day or two and Bitcoin eventually gets dropped because the fees were too low. Those are the type of things that are ultimately rely upon that layer one that you choose to use. And I would certainly like to work with more and more wallets and exchanges that, as FIO becomes more ubiquitous, there might be an opportunity, for example, to provide, we call it an OBT transaction, other blockchain transaction, to provide real-time data about what's going on with your transaction. I think that would be a really useful way and this would be an example of future enhancements we could make to the protocol, where if you send a transaction, you could say, hey, I see it, it's in the mempool, and then as soon as it's out of the mempool, it's like, hey, it's got a confirmation, you just need 3 more. And then, it would be updating you in real time in your wallet about what's going on, because as part of that recording of a FIO request, you get that transaction ID that the wallet or the service provider could then provide feedback for the user on.
It's funny that it's such a standard thing for so many products out there that not blockchain, with instant or near instant status updates. And it's more difficult than people think to do that on the blockchain. There's for example, CoinPayments supports over 2,200 different currencies for wallet users.
Wow, that's amazing.
Making sure that all of those coins have the same standard user experience with those same standards of close to instant status updates, being able to look on the blockchain, making sure the blockchain explorer works. All of these pieces are what my nightmares are made of.
It really is difficult. I mean, I've been in tech since, I built my first websites in 1996. I was still in high school, and I've been in tech for a long time, building lots of cool stuff. And I tell people often, there are very few tech spheres that are as complicated as blockchain. I mean, it really is difficult. It's really challenging to actually pull it off. And so hats off to you and the rest of the builders in the space. Like, this is difficult stuff, and it's worth doing, though. It's really important.
It is fun. I'll say, it's one of the things that we people think that they've missed out on the blockchain, is as an investment, or I don't think so. Like you're saying, even though it's a widespread thing, um, technology is still in an infancy. There's so many. Like I use just because I'm an enthusiast and this is my profession. I tend to use a lot of blockchain products. From exchanges to different investment platforms to just wallets. All of them are buggy.
Mm.
All of them have issues, and that's not a bad thing to say. I think it should be inspiring to anyone in the space, saying like, hey, there's still so much room for improvement, that we can show customers a better way, we can do better, and that's what inspires me personally.
I love that positive outlook, because it's easy to just be like, man, why is everything so broken? Nothing works. It's like, well, it just means we're early,
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that I would also, just this tiny, I guess, thing I would want to point out to any FIO users is that even though you can't make a mistake by accident sending money, to a wrong address, if you're dealing with multiple FIO requests, I guess just be sure that you don't approve the wrong ones. Since if you have a list of 10 or something, it might get a little overwhelming. So manage your requests carefully.
Yeah, I one of the things I really love about the foundation and what we do with the team with active worker proposals is that we eat our own dog food, as they say in the software industry. We use FIO Protocol. I use FIO Protocol probably more actively than anyone on the team, because I'm responsible for the treasury, the community treasury, and paying out those worker proposals. And so I'm using, in this case, I use Edge Wallet mostly. And so today's November 30th when we're recording this. I've got a lot of payment requests that'll come in for the end of November, and it's beautiful because it comes through, and in the memo it'll have the actual worker proposal number, the payment request number, and I can look that up in our system and see all the proof of deliverables and everything that was done for that worker proposal. I can go to the parent proposal and see all the details of who that worker is and the agreement that the foundation has with them, and just being able to use those FIO requests on a regular basis, month by month. Now it's up to 30, sometimes 40 different worker proposal payments a month, and bounty payments and things of that nature. And we do it as much as we can using FIO requests. And it really is a joyful experience. It's kind of nice. It's like, yeah, this is so simple. I look at it, approve it, view it, swipe my finger, done, move on to the next thing. And so I really appreciate it. It kind of makes it easier than traditional payments. I don't have to go to a bank account and set up a wire and all these other complicated things.
Yeah, I mean, even with just regular transactions in crypto, me and my colleague, we tend to send different coins to each other fairly often, and even though we have we start adding tags to the messages, like this is Bitcoin on this wallet, just so we know, but then you still end up sending the same address over and over again just to be sure.
Yep. There's always that test send that you do and things like that. And yeah, I really love it.
Would have solved that.
FIO request makes the test send concept no longer a thing. If I'm Luke at Stokes, you can be guaranteed that it's going to get to me.
All right. So how widely available is the CoinPayments plus FIO integration? Number of merchants and number of users actively using. So it is actually available to FIO payment requests are available to all merchants who are using our hosted checkout. And hosted checkout just means that the checkout experience is hosted on our site. So it's usually merchants who use any or all e-commerce plugins, like Shopify, WooCommerce, WordPress plugin. So all of those would have the option of FIO payment, and pretty much everyone else, except for merchants who develop their own custom checkout experience using our API, which I would say is a minority. They are, a lot of the times there are large e-commerce platform companies that do that, but in regards to the actual number of businesses, they're quite a minority just because of the development efforts it requires. So almost, to answer the question, almost all of our merchants support FIO payments. And what number of transactions, if you're actually interested to know, I think It's not very high at the moment. I think it's about 100 a month we get FIO requests. But I suspect that, as more and more people get familiar with FIO and learn what it is, it should grow because, like we were discussing, it has many benefits over traditional standard transactions.
Fantastic. Yeah, I would take that as room for growth as well. We've got a lot of opportunity. I go to different conferences and speak to people about what we're doing, and many have never heard of FIO yet. And so that's a reason for doing these kind of videos and kind of getting the word out there, because there's just a big space with a lot of projects, a lot of different things going on. And part of our job is to kind of make sure people know, hey, this is an opportunity for you. We're in Shapeshift, we're in the Edge wallet, we're in the Alti chatbot, we're in, so many incredible wallets that have this experience. And I think once people use it for the first time, and I've seen this again and again, I onboard people to the FIO experience, especially those who've been in crypto for a long time. They're just like, oh my gosh, I've been wanting this the whole time. And then those who are new, they get right into it and they're like, oh, that was easy. I've been told crypto is really hard and confusing. It's like, well, not with this experience. So
Right. We've thought of this for you. Lovely. Well, the last question is actually about the future of cryptocurrency and e-commerce, but I think you kind of answered that with, adoption rates and what would drive the further spending of crypto rather than, safekeeping it. I think we've pretty much answered all of the questions. If you'd like to discuss something, outside of that, I would be happy to.
I think that's an interesting one. We should chat about this a little bit, I think, because there are some people that, I should probably even back up. One of the fun things I love to always ask is like, what's your crypto origin story? At what point did you personally get into cryptocurrency and start using it?
I see. For me, it was kind of job related. So I was working as in quality assurance in a gaming company, and then 3 years ago, a close friend of mine was hired at CoinPayments, and then through him, I get to know the team, and they offered me to lead the quality assurance department at CoinPayments. So before I started, I just read a book, Bitcoin Standard.
Mm-hmm.
Forgot his name. It's, I think, in
Saif, I think it is.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
A beautiful book.
Yeah.
I find it very inspiring, and that's what drove me into learning more. And since then, just all sorts of blogs, trying to watch what's happening in the financial kind of aspect of crypto, not just transactions, like the different ICOs, IDOs, fundraisers, NFTs. Just observing it develop is what kind of drives my curiosity in this. And since then, just kind of exploring what are the new things and new tools.
Very cool. I love it. My story is like, I think I briefly said back in 2013, I first got involved in this as I was kind of thinking about the payment space with the business I had built. And back then, especially, there was a lot of focus on kind of peer-to-peer digital cash, what the original white paper talked about. And this idea of you could do micropayments, you could have autonomous cars that are like paying each other to move out of the way and let the other person go past. And we had all these incredible ideas. And I've noticed a little bit over as time passed, that there's been a narrative shift a little bit towards, well, we're not so much, a means of exchange, is more of a store of value. We're the digital gold. And I think that's been an interesting narrative that, to some degree, I feel like it's almost a cop out. Like, well, you're doing that because it doesn't work so well. I've had that kind of sense. But then I think there's some legitimate pushback to that perspective in terms of Lightning Network, the idea that you could you could stream a podcast and do micropayments. And there's some really interesting advancements and innovations in that area that are taking place. But I wonder, from a, cryptocurrency meant to be a currency mentality, do you think the trend will continue as far as people thinking about this as a store of value, specifically Bitcoin and a lot of the more kind of layer ones that are secure but kind of considered old and bulky and a little more difficult? Or do you think it's just a matter of innovation, meaning like with Taproot that just went live and Lightning Network and other different innovations that eventually, you're going to be able to spend Satoshis and do micropayments? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm just, my experience, if I was able to spend my Bitcoin at, 20 cents to $1 per transaction, which sometimes happens, but I would. That's just, I would rather, why, how I see it is, why would I try to get Bitcoin and then convert it to fiat, like US dollars or Canadian dollars, where we are at right now, pay the transaction fees to send it there, pay the transaction fees for settling, then have it sent to my bank account. There's so many loops and stuff. If the merchants I was interested in accepted Bitcoin, and I was in the position where I'm willing to spend some of it, I would totally do it. It makes life easier. So the thing that stops me is the network fees a lot of the times.
Interesting. Now, I'm curious. Do you, and you don't have to answer if you don't feel comfortable, but do you get paid in cryptocurrency at CoinPayments or no?
Not me personally. Some people may. Yeah, I think it's an option.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. So everything we do in FIO is completely crypto. We don't have any bank accounts or anything.
Lovely.
And
Wow.
so everything, and a lot of it's done in stablecoin just because that's easier for people. And they do have to, as you said, convert to fiat to, pay rent, pay bills, pay mortgages, whatever it might be. But it's interesting. Some people, they kind of push back on that and say, no, why would I ever, sell your Bitcoin? Never sell your Bitcoin. And my thought is, it's really 6 to 1, half dozen of the other, right? If you've got $100 and you're going to pay for something $100, or you've got $100 in Bitcoin and you pay for it, you can always take that $100 and buy Bitcoin again. And that's what I would always advocate for. If you've got a source of income that's coming in fiat, for example, well, you can just be regularly dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin and then just spending the Bitcoin like money. And then it doesn't matter. It's not like you're like, oh no, I've got this, $50,000 TV that I bought, because I bought it for one Bitcoin when it was like $300 or something. It's it doesn't really work that way, because that $300, if you had it to buy the TV anyway, and instead you bought it with Bitcoin, you would buy the backup Bitcoin. So you still have the same Bitcoin and it still goes up in value that you hold your Bitcoin.
Yeah, you do need to just manage your portfolio, of crypto.
Yeah.
If you are spending it and you do care about accumulating more of it, then that's one of the strategies for sure.
Now,
watching the cycles as well.
Yeah.
When it's peaking, that's when you sell. When you spend a little bit. When it's low, maybe spend some other currency.
Yeah, and then you, of course, buy the dip too. That's always the moniker people use all the time. Now, another last question here related to kind of cryptocurrency as a payment. Have you thought much about the kind of tax liability concerns, like tracking every single transaction as a taxable event, essentially, because you bought here and then you hold your crypto and then you buy something using crypto? Well, that's a taxable event in most countries. And thinking through the capital gains involved, whether it's short term, long term. And I'm curious, like, have you guys been thinking about that in the payment space as far as potentially lobbying for these laws to be changed? I know some countries are reevaluating this as to whether or not it can be legitimately seen as a currency, and so or unless so as a commodity that would have that same type of taxation rules. Have you guys been exploring this space much at all, or you personally?
I can't say really about more grandiose plans like talking to governments and trying to make sure that the laws are fair to crypto users, but we have looked into the accounting aspect of it just for us, even, trying to figure out what's the way to automate some of our bookkeeping and making sure that it's all correct and accurate. And I think once we nail down the system for us, it'll be a lot easier for us to roll it out for other users, as either an add-on service or just for free. There's definitely a future for that, since that is a big pain now that it's not as incognito as it used to be, where you just create a paper wallet and then there's no name attached to it, that's just your number. Now that all platforms require some form of KYC, which is identity verification, it's a lot more important to keep your accounting intact, since your name is actually attached to it. So if anything happens, like, by the way, we would never share data with government agencies and stuff unless there was a warrant for it. So just want to clarify, we're really strong at privacy.
Excellent. Really appreciate that. And also specify too, I gave the example of Luke at Stokes, but you could just as easily be Satoshi at Nakamoto if you wanted to keep preserve your pseudo anonymity. You have the full ability to do that.
Just having a wallet and FIO, right? But if you try to do more of selling things and exchanging money, or usually the on-ramps and off-ramps are highly controlled and regulated. So if you're getting into that space, it is, I think, really important to keep track of, your gains and losses, because you never know when the laws are going to be taken more seriously and someone's going to knock on your door.
Definitely. And it's one of those things that, like, I've always told people, when you get into cryptocurrency, you really have to be your own bank. And I encourage everyone to, use a spreadsheet, track your transactions. And there's great services out there like Coinly and others where you can kind of, import your transactions from your different exchange APIs and your different wallets that you use. And they can give you kind of a nice summary of what's going on. But what I personally like, for example, in the Edge wallet, is because it's using those FIO names and because those FIO requests come with a memo, I can look at the transaction details and go, oh yeah, okay, I know exactly what that was for. And that gives me the ability to actually be my own bank. Because a lot of times people don't realize, credit card statements, bank statements, these are a service that your bank provides you. They give you detailed explanation of what's going on. Sometimes it's a little cryptic on, what's going to what, but that is something you have to do on your own. And if you're using it for payments, for sure, this is part of your accounting process. So I really enjoyed our conversation today. Are there any other topics we want to cover before we end out the pseudo live stream that was half live streamed?
Right. Well, I was just curious, just kind of throwing this idea out there, but are you exploring any ways of integrating with exchanges, or more of like not just sending money, but somehow involving conversions with your requests?
We would love to see that. So we, as you may know, we're integrated with ChangeNow and Changely and some of those quick swap platforms. And one of the ideas we had, which I thought would be quite interesting, for example, if I could send a FIO request, or I could send payments to an address such as, Bitcoin Cash to Bitcoin at, name your exchange. And I could just send Bitcoin Cash there, and then it would immediately send me back Bitcoin. Like, how easy would that be?
They know that was the request, right?
Exactly. And they would know which request is coming from. And they could, even if they had their KYC AML procedures in place, I could provably demonstrate that I am the owner of that FIO address. So maybe I'm the only one that could send that FIO request. I think that would be really interesting. I think that quick swap functionality. And again, like I said, Changely and ChangeNow have a version of that where you interact with their interface. You say, here's where I want the FIO request sent. It comes into you, review it, say, yep, that's what I want to do. You send the token they want, and then the token that you are asking for gets sent back to you. But if that could be done all automatically just through a FIO request, I think that would be really cool. I think that would be a great experience that would be very simple for people to figure out.
Thanks. I'll check out the integration with, you said Changely, right?
Changely and ChangeNow. Those are two quick swap integrations that we have, and there may be some others as well that are coming. So there's a lot of activity. Our business development team is doing a great job onboarding more and more exchanges and wallets and payment services and quick swap providers, and we're also very interested in the NFT space and the gaming space. We've actually got an NFT signature protocol that just went live about a month ago. We were at the NFT NYC event, showing how you can sign your entire NFT collection with your crypto handle, which is really great. So that really cuts down on fraud. A lot of people taking like a Beeple image, for example, minting it on some other chain and then claiming like, oh yeah, this is my thing and I'm the legit artist. And with this would prevent that, meaning only the artist that uses it would only sell NFTs that they've actually signed, and just like a normal artist would sign that piece of work directly. And then with the gaming side of it too, a lot of blockchain games are starting to be multi-chain games. So now there's already that confusion of the gamer going, wait, this is a Tron address, this is a Binance Smart Chain address, this is an Ethereum address, I'm so confused. And now you can now you can have just a single crypto handle that says, hey, this is my address, and I can map whatever addresses I want to it. I think that's going to simplify the gamer experience as they get more in-game assets that are NFTs and are on the blockchain and different rewards on the blockchain. So we're pretty excited about exploring that as well. There's a lot of opportunity with FIO. And again, we're really excited to partner with CoinPayments. Thank you so much for your time today to meet with us. I think this has been fun. And we'll work out the kinks and bugs as we continue to do these live stream AMAs, but
working at it.
All learning experience.
I'm happy to see the passion that's coming from you, Luke, and I hope you guys keep it up and introduce more and more conveniences to our users and just the users around the world.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hope you have a great rest of the day.
You.
All right, take care.
You as well. Bye.